Hi y'all, welcome back to my shop. In a recent video I did a review of these two inexpensive carbide tools I'd gotten from China. I've got these little covered tips on them, keep from damaging the tip. I got the roughing tool, the square one, and a finishing tool and a round one. And I actually worked on a couple of projects with them, and it became obvious to me that with these two tools alone I can't do the work that I do. That certainly as a minimum I was missing this detailing tool, this diamond shaped tool. So I went out and bought a inexpensive, and again I bought this, I'm not trying to sell these, I bought this from this Chinese tool from Amazon, and I also bought an inexpensive handle, and I thought I'd review those with you today. This isn't going to be exactly an unboxing because I've already taken this stuff apart, but I want to show you how well packed this stuff came, which is kind of surprising because I don't know about you, but I've had to return a number of things that came in the mail from Amazon or other internet provider damaged, and you look at the packaging and you go, come on, you should have known. First of all, it comes in this very solid blue package. The two cutters, yes, there are two, come in double sealed. They're in a little plastic sleeve that I'll show you. And then in addition, they're in this little plastic capsule, so it really protects those edges that can be easily damaged if they were hit against something very, very hard, because they are brittle. It comes wrapped in this and sealed in this piece of padded wrap, and then the shaft is also included in another piece. The screw is fastened here, so it can't be lost. It also comes with, as the other, comes of course with the T15 torque screw that fits this particular screw. And in addition, it comes with a ferrule if you want to make your tool just like we did in that previous video for those purple handle tools. Let me show you some close-up views here. First, I want to show you the detail milling on here. I know a lot of y'all like to make tools, and I do too. Carbide tools for the round and finishing tool and the square roughing tool. It's not that difficult to mill those out yourself and tap them from a piece of steel. In this case, this is a 1/2 inch piece of stainless steel, but you can certainly use carbon steel if you want to make them. And these aren't that difficult to grind using a grinder or a 4-inch grinder with a metal wheel. However, on this particular tool, this one appears to me to be much more of a challenge in that you've got this thing profiled so you can put the cutter in there. Quickly take this screw out. This happens to be the same T15 as used on the round cutter. And as I mentioned before, it does come with two cutters. It comes with the very sharp detailing cutter, and then it also comes with a more rounded cutter. And I'll get into a little more details of this in a future video as I actually spend some time using these and show how to use them. I've measured these. They appear to be very close to the Easy Wood Carbide cutters, but they're not the same. I think they approximate the size and the shape for the rounded one and the sharp one, but they're not the same. These are made in China. The ones from Easy Carbide are made in the U.S., so if that's real important to you, keep that in mind if you went to go out and buy these, or for that tool for that matter. But the milling on this looks to me to be a real challenge to try to make a homemade tool, because these cutters fit in that recess, so they'll be very stable when you're using it, and they can't shift out of position because they're held in position because of the way this thing is milled. Now, you can go out and find instructions on making your carbide tool shafts on the internet. You can find them on YouTube. There's PDF instructable files. Nobody got into any detail. A couple of folks I saw had done a flat surface and put the detailer on it, Frankly, if it were me, I would be concerned about not having any support other than the screw on a flat edge, because I think that it's going to have a tendency under any kind of stress to shift on you with not real good results. So these two are easier to make. This one I think could be more of a challenge. And for most people, frankly, I don't think it's worthwhile. If you went to go buy these two replacement cutters from China, they're going to cost about $11 for that pair delivered. Well, this whole thing didn't cost me but $32. So, you know, how much time and effort do you want to spend to save $20, $21, $22 when you still got to buy the tool, grind it, refine the edges, you know, turn the shaft, or not. You could certainly make a handle that handle a square shaft. Drill it and tap it and get that profile. Let me give you show you a real close up of that profile in case you do tend to want to do that. And certainly some of y'all got skills to do that. I don't have a milling machine, and it's not worth my time and effort to make a machine like this with this kind of precision. When this shaft, the equivalent, by the time you take $32, subtract $11 for these two that you could buy separately, you're only talking about $21, $22 for the shaft, plus you got the cost of metal. So, and so it's costs more than it comes to, as one of my old bosses used to say. As are the other two tools. This tool shaft from end to end is 11 inches. The round portion that fits in the handle is 1 3/4, and I consider that adequate. I've seen some instructions where they talk about using almost half of this embedded into a wooden handle. I think that's way overkill and not necessary. 1 3/4, I think, is certainly more than adequate. You're not going to be hanging over the tool rest more than probably 3 inches in most instances. Now let's talk about the inexpensive handle that I purchased. This particular handle I bought is 12 inches long. Don't have the price. You can look it up. I've got a link to this on my in the show notes. The one thing keep in mind, it's the diameter is about 1 inch. Not uncommon for a number of round tools that you buy from various people. Some of them might be a little bit bigger. That if you got big hands, that might be a little small. I'd look to see if I had any extra tennis grips left over from my tennis days, but I gave those away. But I'd probably wrap this in a tennis grip just to give it a little better feel to it. It's interesting to note how this thing is put together. This separate piece is threaded and so is the butt cap. It's threaded. And I think what you could do if you wanted to, you could put some stuffing down in there, and you could put some shot or something if you want to weight it. I'm not interested in doing that. But I think what I would want to do is use some thread lock to secure those so they won't come loose from vibration. And once I put this together, I've got no reason to ever take this part apart. One thing to keep in mind when you go out and buy these kinds of inexpensive, cheap Chinese handles, whether you get it off eBay or whether you get it off Amazon, be very careful on the size if you're mixing it with something. My suggestion, if you'll buy a handle and you'll make a shaft, you know, then you can measure the hole and make the rounded shaft fit. In this case, this is just under. This is a 12 millimeter bar, so by the time they round the shaft, it's just a shade under 12 millimeter, which is less than a half an inch. They would probably fit fine in a 12-inch handle. Matter of fact, I'll check that out in just a moment. But this fits a 12 millimeter tool, so this fits in there very snugly. By the way, I think what I would do is have the set screws on the bottom, so they wouldn't fill up with dust and shavings if you did want to take this out and remove it for some reason, or swap out tools. Although frankly, it makes no sense to me why you'd want to be swapping out tools when you can make a handle, and they even send you a ferrule. Like I say, I've got a video on making handles. They're not that hard. I made my handles a little bit longer, more like 14 inches compared to this 12 inches. Former member of my club, a machinist, made a number of these handles for the demonstrators one year. This is made out of, I think, aircraft aluminum. I forget what the what the numerical rating, but it happens to be hexagonal, and so it won't roll, which is kind of a nice feature. But turns out it's exactly the same size as this when you measure it from corner to corner, so to speak. But he put a rubber sleeve on it that added almost 3/8 of an inch, which makes it much more comfortable. I had my 1/2 inch U.S. measurement bowl gouge in it. Let's just see how closely this just under 12 millimeter will fit. And you can see it's a very sloppy fit. Now I think probably what I could do if I had to use this, I could wrap this with some metal duct tape. Certainly I think when you find that's the flat side, that probably by the time you tighten it up it'll probably do fine. Let's just see how that works out. Yeah, I think this would be fine. This would still fit in a 1/2 inch. By the time you tighten it down, if you have a flat on it for those screws, a 1/2 inch hole would probably do fine. If you're making it yourself, I'd want one a little bit smaller for a snugger fit. Okay, I've been turning a while. I've developed some skill with tools, and here's just a few of my spindle gouges. I've got 3 of them here: a 3/8 inch, a 1/2 inch, and a detail gouge. Because sometimes one's a better fit than others. Can they all be replaced with a diamond carbide tool with 2 different tips? Well, maybe we'll see. One of the again, I certainly have a bias toward conventional tools, and I don't think I can make that go away because I've already got a grinder. I've learned how to use them. I've learned how to sharpen, and certainly that key argument for people when they go into the store is the salesperson tells them, "Hey, you don't have to learn how to sharpen. Oh, you don't have to have an." Frankly, I think that's oversold. Sharpening is not that difficult. It helps if you have some instruction. It's a whole lot easier to learn it if you've got some instruction. The other argument is, oh, you don't have to buy this expensive grinder, you don't have to buy these sharpening jigs. Well, again, I think that's overrated because the first time you go to buy any type of other tool, it could be a, or you make a carbon tool really, a high-speed steel, a really simple tool like this beating and parting tool that you use for cutting tendons and other things. Okay, you can't do that without a grinder, so there goes your savings if you're going to use a grinder at all. Even for something as simple as making a little point tool, which is just a wonderful little tool for turning small beads and making V grooves. Again, you can't grind that without a grinder. So, so I think saying you don't need a grinder, it works in the very short term up front. It might work for some very casual turners. It might work for pen turners that do not need a parting tool. They're not going to make any tools. These 3 tools that I've shown earlier in this video and the other for carbide work just great for turning pens, including acrylics, where you're not having to change the size of it and you're not having to do anything really. Any particular exotic or one-off cuts. But carbide tools certainly have a place, and we're going to explore that in a future video. They are easier to use, there's no question about it, and you don't have to learn how to sharpen. And if all you're interested in is jumping in and making something, might be a good solution. Could be a good solution for some very specialized purposes, and I think that's what I'm going to find out for me. There probably are some times when carbide tool is the best tool. Certainly, I don't turn pens, so I don't turn acrylics, but if I was turning acrylics, yeah, I think this would probably be the cat's meow. Although I'd probably do just fine with the high-speed steel and sharpen them a little more often. But I'd have to say, Carbide tools have brought a lot of people into the field of the art and craft and hobby of wood turning, and that's a good thing. And as we've said before, when you finish turning something, nobody asks you what tools you use, so it doesn't make any difference how you get there. The results are what really counts. And for me, part of that was also the fun of the learning journey along the way. Y'all stay safe. Come on back here. Y'all stay safe. Come on back here. Get your flu shot when it's available.